Hi, this section is on the new kinds of questions that were added as Moodle upgraded that some teachers may not know how to do. I'm in an example quiz and I'm going to add some questions to the quiz of a couple of these new ways. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm in a blank quiz and I'm going to say add a new question. Now, of these question types, first I'm going to do two of them that are very, very similar, and that is drag and drop into text and draw and select missing words. Those two are extremely similar, and I'm going to do both of them with the exact same question to show you how those work. So first we'll do drag and drop into text. And I do want to say that if you ever have a question on how to do those, this question button up here, once you go to add it, tells you a little bit about how to add that particular kind of question. So I'm going to add a question name. Again, no one sees this, and by my technique, I add a chapter and an indicator number. We're saying that this corresponds to chapter 4, indicator number 6, and then a little bit about it. Parts. And again, only I will see that there. So as far as the question text then, the best way I think to do it is to go ahead and write a statement that you're going to use. And I've got this statement that I'm going to use for both those questions. Okay, saying that comma doesn't belong there, I'll go with that. And I'm using nope, that's the way it is. So I've got this statement here that I want students to, in this case, drag and drop words into to show they understand the meaning. So the first word I'm going to take out is the word CPU. So I'm going to cut that out, and that, to show where the drag and drop is going to go, I use the two of the square symbols and then two back. So it's going to have a blank there, and that says number 1, meaning that corresponds to answer number 1 from below. And we are going to click shuffle there, so those are always going to be out of order as we do those. And so it's going to say the most important part when purchasing a computer is the what, which is the brain of the computer, which really answers that. The blank is important, or the motherboard, because it connects all the parts of the computer. So I'm going to take that out next, and I'm going to say that's block number 2. So you can see it, 2 block marks with the number, and then I'm going to put the word down here as motherboard. Connects all the computer, but it determines the parts that can be connected to it. The size and shape of these parts are referred to as the, and that's going to be form factor is my last thing, so I'm going to cut that. Oh. And so I'm going to have 3 words that I'm going to drop up in there, and right now there's only 3. Now that means the list will only be 3 long. I could go ahead and add other things. I'm going to add GPU to confuse with CPU. I'm going to add a couple other computer words, and there we go. Okay, so now I've added the ones that go there. 1, 2, and 3 correspond to where 1, 2, and 3 are up here in the statement. And then I've added some other ones there. And I'm going to hit Save Changes on there. And now I can hit the Preview button right here and see what it looks like. So when this comes up, every single time they come in here, these words are going to be in a different order. And they then, to answer the question, will drag them up in there to get the right answer. There you go. That's exactly how that one works. And while I'm here, I can say what the default value is of this kind of question. It's a drag and drop. It's got 3 questions. I'd say at least it's worth 2 in my weighing process, possibly 3 points. So I just hit the little pencil there. I'm going to say 3 and hit enter. So now by default, when this is added to a quiz, or in this 10-point quiz, it's going to be worth 3 points. So that's that kind of question. I'm going to go ahead and show you the next one, which is remarkably similar, the select missing words. And I'm going to use the same thing. And by the way, if I was doing the right thing, I would be choosing chapters that these go into, like we talked about before. Setting up categories is the best thing you can do. If you don't, you're going to get confused later, but we'll just say it's the same thing, 4-6 parts of PC. And I'm going to use the exact same sentence here that I used before in the other question. So now the difference is, fix that like I did in just a second. Now the difference is almost exactly the same. Okay, so or the question's almost exactly the same. I'm going to take and cut these out, but the way it looks to the student is different. And I'm going to put that down as number 1, just like I did before. I'm going to pick motherboard. Put that as number 2. And I'm going to pick form factor and make it number 3. And I'm going to use the exact same words. I don't remember what I think I used GPU. Oops, didn't belong in the same line. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and save changes, and we'll preview that one and see what the difference is between that one and the one we just did. It looks very similar. The difference on this one is there's no words to drag up. The words are just showed in a drop down. So I can go there and I can pick the words, and that's the way it works. So instead of a drag and drop, it's just drop down of words that they have a choice from. This is a great way to do ones and have a different question bank for, or word bank for students that don't remember all the words, but you want to give them options there. By the way, I didn't quite set that up right. I'm going to go back to settings. I forgot to go down here and say shuffle, and if I don't do that, then it's just going to be right in the order of first, second, third. So I got to make sure I do that. So on both these, you also saw that there were groups here that they could choose. And let me show you what the group really does in this kind of question. Right now, if I was to preview this, every single drop down shows all the different options there for the students to choose from. If I go and use the groups, then I can say that group 1 only has this one and that one. Group 2 has this one and this one, and group 3 has this one and this one. So now if I save that one, or let me see, I just put the preview. So now if I do that, when I do the drop down, you know what, I have to save it in order to save and continue editing, and then I'll do the preview here. You can see that I only have those 2 choices that are in that group, and so I can do a drop down and not have it be a ton of questions, because maybe there's one word that, that would make, if most important part of the purchasing computer is that, what if they chose motherboard? Would I get partial credit on that kind of thing? Now you've limited the number of things they can choose on the drop down. And the same thing goes true with the other kind of question. If I go and edit this one, what it does is it changes the color. So I can say, I'm going to make this one group 2, and these 2, leave that group 1, make this one group 2, and save, and then preview. And now you'll see the other choices change colors. So these 4 words can be used in either one of these blocks, but only these 2 words can be used in that one. I can't drag form factor up to there. It will not let me do it. I can only drag form factor to the other gray block. So that's another thing that you can do. You got to make sure the right answer is the right color, but you can have more words and kind of have them be lists. Okay, this one, which one of these 3 words is the right one? And that one, really, I make them all available to everyone. But if I had an IEP student that I needed to give vocabulary list to, or a limited number of options, I could take the same question, copy it, and then make it basically broken down like this. So they only have like 2 answers per each word if I needed to. So that's what those groups mean. Again, you got to make sure the right word or the right answer is in the right group for that question. But that's what the grouping is for there for those kind of questions. They're very, very similar, other than the fact that you're dragging versus the drop down there on. I'm going to go down here and hit save changes to go back. Okay, so those are 2 of the kind of questions that we've got that are new. Most of these we went over on the one before. I'm going to go over the other one, which is drag and drop markers, and I use that one a lot. So if I go and say drag and drop markers, this is one of the more complex kind of questions to set up. And in the question, I'm going to say, label the parts of a PC workstation to use the hairs. Okay, and you're going to see what I mean by that here in a second. So there it is. And by the way, since it's a one with multiple things, I could raise the default points here so that whenever it's added, that's what it's worth. So the first thing I have to do is decide an image that I'm going to go in here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop an image that I've already downloaded to use for this particular picture, and it is, if you look at it, it's a PC right there. So that's what it looks like right there, that they're going to go and drag and drop markers onto. And you can see the XY coordinates as I move my cursor around. I'm going to have to use those to label what gets dropped where. So let's show you what I mean. So the first marker I'm going to say it is, we have to say where it is, what it is, and then the drop zone of where it's going. So the first one I'm going to say is a mouse. They have to identify which one of these things is a mouse. I'm going to say there's only one mouse marker they can drop, so they only use it once, and I want it to be right here. So the easiest way I found to do this is to find the center, which you're going to see I've got it right there, and it's 391 by 330, and I'm going to make it a circle. If I don't know how to do that, I can hit the question there, and it says for a circle, you put the X, the Y, and then a semicolon and the radius. So I got to go up here and look where that was. So 391, 330, we'll say 392, 331. So I'm going to go 392, comma 331, and then a semicolon. And how big is the circle? And all these are 10, so I'm going to give it a 20, and that corresponds to the mouse. And then I'm going to just hit save changes and continue editing so that we can look and see what we just did there. So now you see that circle that's over where the word mouse is. That's where I'm going to drag that. In fact, let's do this. Let's hit preview so you can see what I'm talking about. So they're going to see the word mouse down here, and they're going to drag it up there and see this right there, if I can point to it where my mouse is going, is the crosshairs. This would be a wrong answer because it doesn't look at the words, and it's important to make sure your kids understand that. It looks at the crosshairs. So if I want to label the mouse, I'd need to do that. That would be centered up, and that would be a correct answer. Whereas if I did this, it would be an incorrect answer. So let's go on with this. I'm going to go ahead and close this preview and go back, and we'll do another one. So this one, I'm going to do the keyboard, and I'm going to be kind of stringent on this. I'm going to say they have to get it on the keyboard, and the easiest way I've found to do that is to actually write down the coordinates as I go. So I'm going to write down these coordinates. So I got 61, 284, and then I've got 304, 294, and then I'm going to go to the bottom here. I've got 326, and you can see it's not the easiest thing to do, right? And then I've got 264, 345. So that's going to define those coordinates. So my next marker, as I go here, is going to, look, I'm going to add more markers. I'm going to say the word keyboard. And obviously, I'm doing a fairly, and this is how many times that shows up. So if there were a bunch of keyboards, you could have them label every one. Or if it's, the anatomy of a cell and there's multiple parts in there that show in different locations, like the organelles or something, you could go and say there's 2 of those showing up. So I'm going to say keyboard, mouse, monitor, and system. And then I got to define those drop zones. So I'm going to add more drop zones there. And you can see when I do this, it defaults to circle. and I can go and say I want a polygon or rectangle. If I say a polygon, and if I go and show this here for a polygon, you do the first X and Y, semicolon, the next X and Y. So I'm going to go here with all those numbers I just wrote down, which was 61, 284, semicolon 3, you can see why I wrote them down, 304, 294, semicolon 3, 326, semicolon 264, 345. And that corresponds to the keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and save changes so that I can come back here and preview and look where the keyboard is. You see that box there, and it doesn't like the way I did it because see the highlighted spot. Those spots are not gonna work. So let's see. It must go up and down. So it must want this one next. I'm going to move that over. You'll see what I'm talking about as soon as I move that over there. Let's see if it made it look better. Save changes and continue editing. See if it looks right now. No, it doesn't look right. Now I've still got, very confusing. Let's see. Drop zones. So it wants the X change and then the Y change. So, right? Is that what I just saw there? It has X1. No, it has all the similar Y's first. So, well, that's what I had. Right? 61, 284. There we go. Shoo! That was confusing, wasn't it? So now you can see it's one big square there. So it wanted me to go around. It went there, 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 and there around the horn in a clockwise pattern. I have not ever done that before. I usually do squares, obviously. So the next one I'm going to do is my monitor. So let's see if I write it down right this time. 104, 79, and then. You know, I should go to here because it could be all around. So 352.60, and then we'll go down here and we'll say 355.271, and we'll see if this works out the right way this time. And 102.265. Okay, let's put that one in there for our drop zone. Add more drop zones. And this one again is a polygon. You can see why circles are so much easier. 104, 79, semicolon 352, 60, semicolon 355, 271, semicolon 102, 265. Look at that. Look how much nicer that one looks up there as we built that. And that one's going to be our monitor. And then we'll do our last polygon here. I could probably do it as I go. Let's say 361, 71. Let's see if there's I wish there was some magic dragging tool, but there isn't. I can't copy that. 526.72. 526, oops, that's period. And I'm kind of going down here. 525, 322. 525. There we go. That's working out pretty well. And then I'm going to go to the last corner. 357, 318. Semicolon 357, 318. That wasn't a comma, that's a period. It's confused. It only does what you tell it to do. There we go. And I'm going to say system. And there we go. So save changes. And now we've got a drag and drop and that's why this is one of the advanced ones. But it's a great way. The kids have to know what everything is. They have to be able to drag up the icons on there and label things. There is no other way to do a lot of questions than this. It's great for having students identify parts of any kind of a diagram that you want. You could use it on a map. You could use it on a specific thing in biology. All kinds of uses for this particular kind of question, and I like adding this question. You saw it took a couple seconds longer than a normal question, but I'll be able to use that one again and again, and it's really hard to cheat on that one because of the way the labeling works. And I don't think there's any marker down here to say scrambled. Oh, it does. Shuffle drag items each time the question is attempted. Definitely I want to do that. I want to change that, so I want to shuffle those as well. So there's a couple of more advanced questions right there. We already went through multiple choice, true, false. I'm pretty sure we did matching last time, and essay. And the other ones, those are the ones I use the most. The last one I do is the calculated one. And the calculated one is really quite simple. Basically, when I do a calculated question, I just put the questions in there and then say what the answer is. And say what the tolerance is for the answer. So in other words, if the answer is calculated to be 5, you could say the tolerance is 0. In other words, they've got to put 5. They can't put 5.1. They can however you want to do that, and then you can say how you want the answer to be put in there. If you want to allow units, you can come down here and do units as well. So I can go down here and add different unit choices on the answer as well. Mine usually just say, calculate this, put the number only, do not put any units in the answer. I know it is bleh. However, you can put units down there if you want to and make your own list of what you want to be in there so that you know. And you can see the examples here. You can say whether you want watts or kilowatts or however you want them to answer the question, liters, kiloliters, and the units there as well. So that's really it for the what I would consider the advanced kind of questions that you can do in Moodle at this time.